My friends, I have such an incredible guest with me today. Liz, please introduce your beautiful self to the audience.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liz Findlay, and I do multifaceted healing for people and animals.
Such great stuff, such great juicy stuff. Liz, and you are Zooming with us from the UK. So thank you so much for aligning our time zones today. I feel so fortunate, A, to know you, and B, to have you on the show. So as we were conversing in the green room, aligning our content, you have such great tips on confidence. We were talking about networking, we were talking about building our businesses respectively. And you had some great tips and things that you've used and that have helped you. Would you mind sharing your tips with the audience today?
Yes. So when I started my business back in 2016, I'd left the corporate world. I worked in property, and I was told about business networking. So I thought, let me go ahead, and this would be a way to get my business out there. Somebody gave me the tip actually to bridge the world between corporate and woo-woo and to go to these business networking meetings dressed up in, the office clothes that I wore to go to the estate agency when I did property management. And so I did this. And I really enjoyed the business networking. A family formed there, and I got to really refine how I speak about my business. Because I'll
Mm.
be honest with you, the first few times I went, when they say you've got to do your elevator pitch, it's a bit daunting. I didn't know what to say.
Right.
And, it's one thing talking about healing with other healers or, people who have experienced it before. But when you're talking to some people who've maybe never heard of Reiki or energy healing or have never even heard that you can do it with animals, I was seeing a lot of glazed over faces.
Sure.
And so I just said to myself, next time I'll do better. And I started looking around within the meetings. Whose elevator pitch piqued my interest the most? Who was the most memorable? What is their format? And I picked up a sort of a format from the regulars. And what I noticed, those people who'd been going for years, they tended to start off with their name.
Mm.
They were quite brief and succinct. They got to the point of what they do, who they're looking for, and then they end off with their name. And not necessarily always first name, surname, and business name, because that is a lot of information for people to remember, especially when you're going round a table of maybe 15 to 20 people.
Right.
And so I started adapting what I say according to this format that I witnessed. And I mean, some of these people, they've got their 60 seconds down, they've practiced.
Sure.
And I noticed that this was working for me and I was becoming a bit more memorable
Mm.
and also being able to speak with more confidence about my business and what I do. So someone said, if you're in an elevator with someone and you need to tell them what you do before they get off at their floor, what are you going to say?
Right.
And so I got a little pitch that I could say in a small space of time to really get the gist of it across.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great story. And it's something, Liz, thank you for sharing that we can all use, right? And it's not just the in person, but a lot of the virtual networking that's happening today as we
Yes.
introduce ourselves into new groups. And yes, there's a level of confidence that comes from that. You shared a really neat story a few minutes ago prior to us recording about high school. Let's put that story in here real quick because I think it's really important to know that practice is important in getting that confidence in ourselves.
So in high school, I was not a huge fan of homework, and I was very fortunate that I could just get by on the bare basics. So I remember every speech that we had to write and then say in class. I would never prepare like my friends at school. I would just throw something together last minute, a few ideas, and I would just stand up and say it.
Hmm.
And I did okay, But there was one teacher who spotted this. And after the one speech that I had to deliver, she called me aside and said, right, you on the impromptu public speaking team. And I was like, what? Like, I was not into these teams, the debating team, the public speaking team, and all of this. I just wanted to get by, without too much extracurricular, whatever.
Right.
But you know what? It was really great, because what I value now is that she noticed a talent in me. And instead of coming down on me like, you've not done your homework, you've not prepared the speech, she was like, right, we're going to use your talent and you're on the impromptu public speaking team. So, but even though I had that, I must say, going to these networking groups, there was a bit of nerves. I'd never been before. I didn't know what
Right.
to really say. But again, the key for me was look at other people, look what works with them and what I remember about them, and
Right.
implement that with mine, and just keep tweaking and crafting my own little spiel.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much, because essentially that's what it is: listening, learning, applying, listening, and you just continue to do that. And you run a business networking group of your own, and you have shared these tips with us, and I think it's so brilliant, because I need to continue to tweak, and I know others in my life need to. So that's why I brought you here, because you have so many great you have such a great outlook, number one, and number two, great tips that we can all use. Because
Thank you.
at some point, you're welcome. At some point or another, we have to introduce ourselves. If it's not in a networking venue, where perhaps at a family gathering, or you meet new people, you still want to make yourself memorable, right? And I love that you share that it is that, so they remember you and what you do, right? The
And one
other,
of the key things,
yeah,
sorry, one of the key things that I did
please.
to be memorable is the clothing. Now, I started off by saying that somebody said I should bridge the gap between woo-woo and corporate. So I
Mm,
was wearing my nice office dresses and whatever. I started seeing a disconnect, that when I arrive at people's homes to work on either them or their animals, because back then I did in person, now I only do online,
mm.
there was a disconnect. And I could see they were used to seeing, the smart lady from the networking, and then somebody rocks up in jeans and a branded polo shirt. But I needed to wear that clothing, especially working with animals, because I'd be on the floor with the dogs or the cats, or and so it was practical. So I would be neat, branded purple polo shirt. And I made the decision to start wearing these to the networking. I did check with one of the group leaders. I said, is this appropriate? And they said,
Mm.
yes, of course, this is your uniform. And, it worked for me way better. I was so memorable, because right across the back, in huge white letters on my purple polo shirt, was my website. On the
Mm.
front, again, it's got my website, and my website is my name.
Right.
And so not only are people getting the audio when I say my elevator pitch of my name, but they're getting the visual throughout the meeting. That I would go to a meeting and I'd have somebody who came to maybe 3 meetings before and missed a few, and they come and say, hi, Liz. And I don't have a clue who they are, but they clearly know me.
Right.
And this being memorable has really, even though I haven't been to that group for a few years, I moved away from the area, I went online. I have people that I met maybe 4 years ago still referring business, because I've stayed in their mind, the purple polo shirt.
Right, right. I love it. Right. You've established your brand and it aligns with what you do. Right. There's a level of comfort that I'm understanding from what you're saying, Liz, that you get from wearing that shirt. It aligns with the work that you do. So I would sense and venture to guess, actually, that there's an established level of trust too. Because look at Liz, she's wearing that shirt and now she's sitting down. There's just an automatic level of trust that is happening there, aside from them recognizing you for your brand,
And
right?
consistency.
Mm. And consistency. That is important. It's kind of, we ignore that, right? Because we never usually wear the same things, but you're like, this is who I am. It's kind of like, the service people who deliver our mail, or, overnight packages, or in certain businesses, they have uniform so we can
Yeah.
recognize them and feel safe and trust them. And that's exactly what you've done with you and your brand and what you're wearing. And I applaud you for that, because I think that's really all that we need, is to tap into that, right?
Yeah, and where it's appropriate.
And where it's appropriate. Exactly. And you even asked, is it okay if I wear this? So maybe, for someone who's listening to this, it's understanding the dress code venue, right? First and foremost. And then, okay, you took a step back and said, okay, I'm going to make this work. This is going to work for my business. I love that so very, very much. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So if we had one more tip that we could share with the audience about networking, and you admitted, I had some nerves in the beginning. What are some things that can help us step into that confidence, Liz, as you have?
So I now run an online business networking for starseeds and light workers. It's myself and Steve Nobel who run these monthly. And I shared some tips there. I actually put together a video that's sent with for everyone booking. And what I found in these traditional business networking and for us is people don't mind if you read your elevator pitch. If that is what's going to give you confidence, write it out beforehand and read it. At least it will get across, rather than you going, I forgot what I wanted to say. It comes across way more professional if you even just have it written, and you will gain that confidence because it's consistency.
Yep.
You keep showing up, you keep going, you're going to build that confidence, and you're working on a skill. And you're not going to just get it first time, and you're not going to be memorable first time. I know the first few times I wasn't memorable. It was consistently showing up, and you then get embraced within that family.
Yes.
And that's also when people start remembering you and giving you tips.
Yep. Yep, I love that. It is in that video, I've watched it. It is so very helpful. And also you share that if you have a business example that helps you explain your business, that's something that's helped me too, Liz, in that quick elevator pitch. I've helped someone who's had this problem, and they can start
Yes.
formulating, right? Let's talk about that for a second, and formulating in their minds the connection with what I do and how I help people.
Yeah, I remember years ago somebody said, don't get so caught up on how you do something, because people don't actually care. They just want to know how it's going to help them, or in my case, them and or their animals.
Right.
And those traditional business networkings that I went to when I was living in London, some of those people have never heard of energy healing. They don't know what Reiki is. And so I was wasting my time trying to say, I send energy through my hand. I mean, I sound like a charlatan, or, some kind of a,
Right. Right. A
a
shyster.
witch
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So I found it worked much better to give an example. And what I'd do is I'd change it each week so that it wasn't boring for the people who started to know me, who were there each time. So I would give a recent example of a client that I helped, whether human or animal, so I could say, I'm Liz Findlay and I help people and animals with blah, 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 blah. And just last week, I had a dog who was experiencing this and I helped them through this. And then they
Yes.
start thinking, oh, my dog is experiencing that, or my neighbor's dog is experiencing that. And then they make connections rather than I send energy healing through my hands.
Right. And I love that. And sometimes that's exactly what we have to do with our businesses, regardless of what we do. That I don't do energy work, but I am a coach, and it helps to explain by example. So thank you for sharing that, because it's so very helpful. So in all of this incredible work that you do, Liz, is there a favorite piece of clothing or accessory that means something to you? Like, how does it make you feel?
So it's not the purple polo shirt.
Okay.
um,
Darn, we were so close.
as you were just saying this now, the first thing that popped into my head right now is this top that I've been working on. It's a really cheap, very colorful top that I bought online. It's got a mandala print, and
Mm.
I bought loads of beads and sequins that I've been slowly sewing on. And this has been a creative project for me. And so I'd say it's my new latest favorite item, because I really needed to bring in some tactile creativity into my life, rather than
Mm.
just the online creativity with, my meditations and, the social media posts that I do on energy and how you can use that. So I needed to work with my hands just rather than staring at a computer. And so it's a labor of love. It's taken forever, but it's at a point where I can wear it now. It's a
Mm,
little unfinished to me, but I think the average person wouldn't notice. And I'm loving all the glitz and the sparkle,
I
and
love that.
it's mine. It's my work that's gone into that.
Yes, what a beautiful, and you're just shining and glowing as you're explaining this top. I need to meet this top at some point. We'll set up a separate Zoom because it sounds amazing because it's really lighting you up. And pretty much the work, this creative journey you're on with this top is just bringing you to you. So I love that story. Thank you so very much. Liz, this has been so incredible. If someone wanted to continue the conversation with you and reach out to you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Probably my website, because all other links are there, like to my YouTube channel and events. So if you look at lizfindlay.com and you spell Findlay Findlay.
Beautiful. Liz, I will put that in the show notes. So all that people have to do is touch it and it will bring them to your
Great.
beautiful
Thank you.
website and visit and see all the beautiful work that you do. But I thank you for your time today. This has just been an absolute pleasure, Liz. Thank you.
And thank you, Francesca. Thanks for having me.
Hmm